since the time I was here as a kid. Like now you have all these kind of walls, like these plastic, aluminium covering. So like you do not get to see these things, like these are the things which I used to like. These things, I think this texture of torn posters and like torn stickers. And my first drawing books, I used to all get it from here in these stores. So like these places where I got all my initial inspirations from, like drawing materials and stationery and everything. So, and this place is very close to my heart because a part of my life I grew up over here because my grandparents, my father, they all grew up over here. So and also it happens to be like one of the oldest parts of Guwahati, and probably that explains my fascination with vintage stuff, like old houses, old printed posters, old books. So so I like to come to this part because I don't know, like anything might stick out and give me inspirations. Like for example, like houses like this, they have a very interesting texture and story behind it. Like you don't get to see such houses anymore, and I like to whenever I'm around, I try to like take pictures of old houses, old walls, and posters that I might see that might just like spark an interest. So yeah, so I mean, let's keep walking.
I've been drawing for as long as I can remember. Like I remember when I grew up. When I was growing up, I was a single child, and because of that, I had a lot of time by myself. And I would often surround myself with stories that I would hear from my parents or my grandparents, and I would often try to like bring them to life with my sketches. And sort of like I had this idea in my head of what the characters or what the stories would look like, and I would try to bring them to life with my drawings. And slowly people started like saying nice things like, hey, you draw well, you do good. And I had cousins and I had a sister who used to draw really well. So looking at her work, I used to get inspired again to make stuff. Then I would surround myself with books and comic books and illustrated children books. So I would often try to copy those. And slowly I sort of like started learning things on my own. And eventually I felt like this is something which I can do for the rest of my life. So why not?
So this is like where all the books that I've read since I was a kid, it's all like stored over here, all the games that I've played and stuff. So when I was a kid, like I used to read a lot of comics. So it's like I grew up with like all these kind of comics, Doga, Nagraj, and played like a huge role in defining like my style. Like I learned drawing by looking at the anatomy and stuff in these comics. So then Calvin and Hobbes, obviously, it's like probably one of the best comic series ever made. Then we have like this Dexter. One of the things which really inspired me was like Spawn. Like when I was a kid, I saw Todd McFarlane talk about Spawn in one of his interviews that I have seen, and since then I think something which made me realize that the cinematic quality that comics and graphic novels have. Then towards the end, I ended up making my own comics. So this is a comic book which I made. This was inspired by manga and graphic novels, and it was the story was set in like a futuristic Nagaland. So you can see like these symbols. I mean, I don't say it is Nagaland, but the symbols exist, and the people look like us, they talk like us, they're like, and but it's set in a post-apocalyptic future. So, and I wanted to do it in this style because I realized when I went to Nagaland there was a huge following for comic books and manga. Like people loved Japanese anime and stuff like that. So I was thinking like, that's great, but why don't we create our own stories? Why don't we create our own stuff? Here are a lot of those books, like these used to be like workbooks and everything, but they'd be covered in sketches. I used to like do all these kind of drawings all over, like, yeah. They would all be covered in these like manga-esque characters, and this is like probably my English book from class 10. You want to see this now or
After that.
So yeah, this is where I basically keep the things that I like. Yeah. I love toys and action figures a lot. Like I have been playing with them for as long as I can remember. So these are all things that I've collected over the years. There's more, but this is just like a small section. And these are like the books that I've, again, there's a lot more, but these are like some of the graphic novels and stuff that it's a book about different protest posters over the years. We all saw like how, the past few years have been a little difficult in India, and a lot of artists have been like raising their voice. So I looked through this book to understand like how protests all around the world have their voices heard. This is research about the whole science or like the psychology behind making posters that would be impactful. Like simple graphics, like you don't need to be a insane artist. It's the idea behind the image that speaks. There's another artist who I really love the work of, Yuko Shimizu. I think this was about the protests in Hong Kong. It's called the Umbrella Revolution. Yeah. This is another cover that I did. This is for an Assamese author, Ankush Saikia, who is currently based in Shillong. And I love he has a series of crime, mystery thrillers, and this is like a great opportunity for me to work for him because I really love his work. I love this book because it's about like Bollywood posters, and if people have seen my work, they know how much I'm inspired by posters. I love making posters, and I make posters for movies and stuff just for fun. So I would often like look through. I just love the typography, the colors, the storytelling that would happen in these posters, and the hand painted quality just like adds another dimension. So for the Amis poster also, like I had looked at like this one. This poster is something which I like a lot, and this formed the basis of what inspired me to make this one. I love how here like the rose petals, right, like the texture of the rose petals become the skin, and it is about like kagas ke phool is in the name. So same thing I wanted to do with Amis. Amis is about again like the desire to eat, and there's a lot of things that happen around the concept of meat and flesh and about desire. So I wanted to have the background as the texture of meat in itself, which blends into the faces of the main protagonists. And honestly, like I heard this from a lot of people that after they watched a movie, like before they watched a movie, they did not realize that this was meat. Only after they watched the movie they realized, oh shit. And before that they thought like this was lightning, And that was also another interpretation, because uh, in the spoilers alert in the movie, when the two protagonists hold their hands finally, it almost is like a scene with a lot of electricity. Like it was almost like finally, like entire movie they did not even have the single touch, and when they did, it was almost like electricity flying, like lightnings and fireworks all over. So it became one of those symbols of that, I guess, like lightning, and the natural border of the poster blends into the fat that you have in meat, the like in a steak. So so basically this poster really paved the way for this one in a way. So this is the poster which I had done. It was for an event called Ghosts and Robots by this Danish electronic music group called Den Sorte Skol, and it was in partnership with the Danish Cultural Institute in India. And what they wanted was, they saw my work and they were like, we really like the kind of Indian, like street art, or like pulpy, like poster art quality that you have. So they wanted something in similar style, like how you see those circus posters on the road. So I was like, yeah, I'm happy to do something in that format. And so first it begins with like gathering references. So we gather like posters and stuff which I find could be like relevant, or like similar to the style that they are looking for. I put them all together, and like this is the most like basic basis of the thing, so that you create like a visual library, visual vocabulary of the things that you want to reference from. And it's important to take references from different sources, so that it does not look like your work does not look heavily borrowed from only one source, because then it might just end up looking exactly like a copy, even if you put a lot of thought into it, because you've been saturated so much with one source. So this is the poster which I recently did for the movie AK versus AK. This was inspired by those retro Japanese posters of Godzilla versus Rodan or Mothra and Mecha Godzilla. So they would all have these like the two faces of the nemesis, like spinning, like, and this fire was done in that like jaggedy, like it was made using lo-fi techniques. This poster eventually recently reached the director also. Like he asked for a signed print and everything, so I sent it to him recently. So this is was like a satire, like quirky take on the movie, because it was about these two giants of Bollywood. This is something which I did during the lockdown actually, because I was feeling like there was there was a like sudden creative burst which happened, because I felt like there was not much happening. So let's have some fun, because I want to create something for myself and just have fun in the process. So I brought two of my favorite influences together, which is like comic books and music. And I showed, I think, should I get like a Nagraj comic out to show? So this is Nagraj. So this is like one of my favorite comic book characters, and recently I started listening to Lil Nas X. So someone told me, hey, how about we make a Lil Nag X? So I dressed Lil Nas X in the costume of Nagraj, and I like doing that. Like I like playing with mashups. I like bringing two things together and juxtaposing them against each other. Like I don't know, it gives me like a strange joy in seeing two things that ideally would have never been together in this world. And this kind of was a fun. This is a tribute to Kobe Bryant, but he is dressed like one of the characters from Raj Comics called Kobe Bhedia. So hence like the fangs and stuff. It's like a character which is there in like it's kind of like a scary character. He transforms into a wolf. So yeah. Then this is one of the older posters which I had made, which is like a mashup of Parle G. And Parle G is something which is recognizable for every Indian. Like every Indian has had Parle G at some point of time. And I always wondered, like, what is this kid doing with her hands in it? And it almost looked like gang signs. And then I thought, like, Parle G, like, G is there. I was like, what could a G mean? Could it mean like real G's, like ain't nothing like a G thing? So I made like a G for gangster, so ain't nothing like a G thing, and dressed Parle G in this like your West Coast like hip hop attire. And yeah, this was like quite still people love this print a lot. It's one of the best sellers. Yeah. Then after that, everyone's obviously make more and stuff like that. So then I made this Nirma girl, but like as Diana from Wonder Woman. So the tagline was Sabki Pasand Diana because that was the only movie that everyone liked in DC universe. So yeah. In general, like I like playing with a lot of color. Like I love vibrant colors, neon colors, like pinks and reds and yellows coming together, because I feel it's sort of like a reflection of my own personality also coming out. And I love retro stuff, like I love old things. As you can see, my collection is all about like posters from the yesteryears. So I like that aesthetic, which is what I do. Is like even when I make stuff today, it has that kind of font and that kind of like aesthetic that it was from probably like 80s or 70s. So yeah, because I grew up with these. I grew up with these kind of comics. They have such a pulpy aesthetic, such a raw aesthetic, and the stories also there. It had such a masala, like Bollywood kind of flavor. So I really enjoyed them as a kid, and I believe it still has an appeal. It even when people see today, it connects them with an inner child in a certain way. So yeah. In retrospect, like, have I done enough? Have I created good enough? Have I done good stuff for people to remember me nicely? In a larger span of things, like, I do have certain things that I want to do. I love watching films. I love performing. I love acting, and I've always wanted to make a film. Like I love making movies, so I always wanted to make a movie. So because of that, I think that reason I always end up working with a lot of filmmakers. Like I work with posters, I work with on storyboarding and stuff like that, because I somehow through my work I try to learn what goes on behind the lens, what goes on in the process of creating. So yeah, hopefully someday, fingers crossed. But ultimately, it's just I just want to tell stories. I just want to tell stories that are relevant, that are that gives a sort of tell stories that people didn't know about, stories that were untold before. So that's what I like to do. Like rest is up to like destiny. How the journey goes, where I am, because I notice this thing, like people change, we change, and circumstances come. Like maybe tomorrow things happen that completely changes how the world around me is or how I am. So I don't know what will happen then, but right now, for where I'm at, I would just love to keep creating, learning new things. I think that's a very important thing for me. Like one thing for me is, before I die, I don't want to stop creating before that, because like I want to keep myself updated. I want to keep learning new things and trying new things, because if I keep doing the same things again and again, I get bored. And I think when you're bored, that is death. That is death of your creativity. That is death of your ideas. Right now I don't get bored because I'm always thinking about something. Like people got bored during the lockdown. I didn't get bored. I was I was creating a lot of stuff. I was thinking about a lot of ideas. Now, have I brought those ideas to life? That is the bigger question. So hopefully soon, hopefully I end up giving life to all those ideas that I come up with when I'm alone. And yeah, let's see. I think we're on a, like, life is like a ship, like, so as long as the ship sails, let's see, like, how much we end up creating until that